Hello everyone and welcome to Gierok Farms. Today we are going to be doing some fencing. We got an electric fence to put in and Dad is trying to figure out which fencers work yet and which ones don't.
What you do is you get somebody to hold both of those terminals and then they'll tell you really quick if it works.
Yeah, maybe one of these guys will come over and do that for us.
Usually by accident we end up touching something somewhere, but that light, when the light blinks, that means there's power. What it's supposed to do is when the fence is grounding out through like rain or vegetation hanging on it, or it's down because of the deer or something, typically the light shouldn't blink. It may still blink, but it's a weaker. These aren't. For dairy cattle they're probably fine, but for beef cows I wouldn't. I would advise something a lot better. They need a pretty good arc.
But he's got the four-wheeler all loaded up already. He's got T-posts and then those small electric fence posts with the insulators on them.
So we had some comments about why don't we just use high tensile. This wire is not high tensile that we're using. This is that soft stuff. So we can, I mean, I know we did this in past videos, but we can wrap it and we'll show you how we don't need a clip. Which to me, a clip is something that get lost in the grass, ends up in a cow's stomach or something like that, but it's just an extra something. For dairy cattle this works. The one thing we got to do is keep checking it for is the deer knocking it down, or if it happened to go under some tree branches. So the question on the high tensile versus barbed wire, like what we were doing up there earlier this spring, I mean, there's no way that would work. We'd have to babysit that fence as far as whether it is a tree branch or the deer hit it or something like that. And this way, even if a wire would get broke, it's not all gonna break. Even if a tree falls on it, a lot of times it can kind of hold itself until you manage to get to it. You're less likely. If you got cattle that get out, it's not just the idea they get out and they need to be brought back. It's the damage they create, probably in some neighboring property. This here where we're going to be today, we're basically fencing off a hay field that's going to be made probably in early to mid-June or whenever the weather and the hay's ready, and then we pull it up and then the cows graze from there on.
Yeah, most of this this lighter duty temporary fence we do is within the perimeter fence.
Yeah, so we still have a main fence going around that portion. So it's happened, or the cows, the deer knock it down or something and they get in there, but it's, they come home for milking twice a day. So even then, we're checking it, regularly anyway. It's not a disaster. It's just a grass field.
Yeah, it's essentially it's a bigger scale of the rotationally grazing that's getting popular, where people give them like 50 yards every day. We're doing it on a bit bigger scale, but it's a similar concept.
Yeah, and the deal with rotational grazing, like with this driftless region, as we call it, it's nearly impossible to make it work the way by the book.
Yeah, it'd be hard to do a nice grid system
because of the terrain. They have to go up through over here to get to over there, and you got waterways and you got all these different obstacles. Where if we had a nice more leveler farm with the buildings in the middle, you could slice your farm up like a pie, and it does work great. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, or if we were strictly just beef and didn't have to milk all the time, we could babysit that kind of fence and that kind of system and be just moving fence, every couple days.
That would be more of our chores end of things. And that's the thing with, like I said, with milking cows, they come home twice a day. So, they're not out of their perimeter very long, and you already got a heads up of what's going on before they're, beef cattle maybe a couple days. And then there's always that thing with water, especially dairy cattle. They got to have fairly close access to water. Pumping water uphill is not going to be very appealing. We do allow them in a couple different ponds. They're further back where they don't hang out there as much, but that's always been a battle to provide good clean water and where they can access it to where their grass is.
Yep. So yeah, we're gonna head down to what we call the swamp, start putting up this temporary electric fence. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Quite the character, ain't ya? Put them in and then I'll let it go again. Yeah, so he's gonna wrap all those. And that helps us get the kind of a reasonable straight line. And now it's going to turn a little bit for the next stretch. So I'm just going to go ahead some more with some more wire. So then we use these broken off T-posts is what these are, or where it turns. Where the fence makes a bend or something like that.
Okay, we have a good strong start behind me. As you can see, we're using those short T-posts to start off with because that's a corner and we want to make that nice and strong to start off with. Coming up the hill, it's going to be a place where cattle kind of congregate there right as it comes down off the hill and it meets the permanent barbed wire fence. So, and now we're only going to put a T-post in maybe every 50 to 70 yards, if that. Probably less than that, probably closer to 50 yards. It's just a nice strong base in between all the small electric fence posts. Dad's going up ahead with the four-wheeler and then he puts a T-post in, ties it on, and then I go every 9 steps, put one of the small posts in, and then we come back, tie it on, and keep repeating that until we get to the other end. Crossing through the valley here, you can kind of see our strategy. Dad put 3 small T-posts up on top there to kind of add some stronger bracing, and now he's going to put some in the center here, and then he's got 2 on that end, trying to follow the contour of the land and put in the stronger posts.
So we put them in the low spot and the high spot, and then there it gets a little narrow because of that rock shelf. The cows would all congregate when they cross from there. Less likely it gets knocked over. They'll bump it. But those little rods we got there, if the ground's really soft, they're just going to tip over.
Yep.
See, this is... The cows think they went to heaven when they crossed the wire. And get lost back here.
How many weeks do you think it's going to be before we start grazing this side of the farm that we're on?
Well, I see here, the south side, there's dandelions just starting to pop in a few spots. But then you look the north side, which I don't know if you guys are going to be able to tell that, but there's virtually nothing there. But I mean...
It's pretty brown up in there.
I mean, we get... I'm going to guess if it don't stay cold, it'll be less than a week. I'm hoping I don't have to crack open another straw bale for the bedding. Maybe we'll use a few small squares if we got a night. See, like the last few days was so blustery, and then at night like that, cows laying on cold ground. If there's grass, it's fine. If they got plenty to eat out here, but I think if we turn them out like right here now today to the whole thing, oh, they'll get a little something out of it, but I just feel they just kind of stomp it out and then still have to get fed in the barn anyway. So a few more days, so when we do graze, we don't have to feed. We feed a little bit of corn silage.
Yeah, I think once it warms up, which is supposed to this week, then things are really going to start taking off.
70s. See, typically I think 50 degrees is kind of that spot where below 50 virtually nothing grows. Above 50, it seems like that's where it teeters. So I think, like I said here, the south sides, I mean, you put a thermometer on the south side down in the grass, it's going to read warmer than the air temperature. The north side will probably be colder than the air temperature just because.
Yeah, it'll probably be 2-3 weeks yet before row crops are ready to go in the ground, but as for grasses, they're going to start taking off here pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's, a lot of this is orchard grass. That's a cool season plant. That's the first one to go crazy. And then what happens here, right before we make hay, this stuff's so tall it's interfering with the fence already. And sometimes I had a little bit with the weed whacker, or if I drive real close with the four-wheeler, I kind of drive it down a little bit. So you know, but that's all good, you know, more vegetation. And then when we take this fence out, say after the hay's made, we take it out, then I'll mow where the fence was, along with some of these spots that the cows just lay, and then their manure, they don't eat it down, so then it just makes new growth.
Yeah, so I keep putting the fence up, but grazing season is fast approaching. Okay, we have the wire attached to all the insulators on the post, the entire length of the fence. Dad is on the far end with just the four-wheeler right now, getting that that fencing box that sends the electrical current through the fence. He's getting that all set up and ready to go on that end, testing it out. So whenever one of you are ready to come over and test out our fencer, just let me know down in the comments. But anyways, he should be just about done with that. I was wrapping these last few posts here while he went to go start on that, so he should be just about done hooking up a ground wire and then his hot wire, and then he'll come back to this end. We'll grab the trailer and maybe take a grand tour through the other side of the farm. It's so beautiful out. It's a great spring day. I do apologize though for the wind noise. I know it's a very windy day. I think this spring in general has been a very windy spring. You can definitely tell that the seasons are changing, and I think the climate is changing as well. I think it's going to be a drastic difference from last year. At least I'm hoping so. I think it's going to be a cooler and wetter spring. I've heard that from some older farmers in their farmer almanac. So had to do some investigation work. We're missing our plug.
I see, I usually throw it inside, but I think because it's up here, something was carrying it around. I don't know, it's kind of heavy, but probably should screw it on there so we don't. See, what I do is, because there's always ice in here when I undo this, and then I don't want to put it back in the hole. And if I take it home, I'll forget to bring it back when I want to fill it and all that. This will be one of the next projects, to get that generator up here.
Get this all ready to go.
What would be ideal is if we could have this tank, we could have another tank down there at the end of that, kind of below that pond. This one would fill up and then it would overflow, go under the ground and come out into that tank.
Yeah, maybe something where it was in that fence line there or something.
Like way down more where that gate is.
Yeah, so then the dairy herd can drink out of that or something if they need to.
Put some boards in there so they don't mess it up, but always a better way to do it if you ever get, I think if you got into like beef.
Yeah, if we had more cattle on pasture longer, then yeah.
Yeah, then it would be, because then what happens is they're coming back by the barn when they don't need to come back by the barn.
Yep.
But ours do, so kind of is okay. They got to come back anyway.
Yep.
I used to let them drink in those ponds, but then they ruined the banks so bad. And that wasn't so bad, but then when it got really hot, they would hang out in there. And then if you lose a calf, stillbirth or something, you always wonder if that's something to do with that drinking that pond water. If there's,
it's just another variable for, you know, disease prevention, or, you know, just another. Not saying that was causing it, but
well, we don't know.
yeah,
You know, you always think. So 97 we put this well up. You know, we use a generator to fill this. It's better anyway. They'll drink more water, obviously. And this is just about the center of this whole pasture right here. I like this spot. And we'll, now with the saltpeter, we never want to leave it right by the water, but close, so then they get water. They can lick and then get more water or whatever it is. And the deer love this whole deal too. Their deer tracks here just look like they were here since it rained again. And I think they, well, that saltpeter I had on the other pasture in the fall, but they usually take care of whatever's left in there. It's amazing how it don't take much to keep them around.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think, speaking of wildlife, I think I can hear ducks down there. We must have some wild ducks around the corner back in there. You kind of hear them chirping.
Yeah, we've seen them here many times in the summer. That's neat to see. I've never seen that stuff when I was a kid. I think what it was then is there were so many more people living on the land. Even though today there's more people in the world, I think the people don't actually live out on the land and then work on the land. And everybody hunted and they had dogs, and I think it was hard for that stuff to get going.
Yep.
And I think now it's more promoting the wildlife more, and
yeah, it seems like there's 1 or 2 pairs that will stop in here now every year. We have made it back down to the yard, and it is continuing to be a beautiful day. We just took the long way home, got to see the cows resting on top of the hill, taking in the nice breeze and the sun, and it was a perfect day to fence. So we're gonna put all that extra fencing material away, get the 4-wheeler put away. So we're gonna wrap the video up here. Thank you all for sticking around to the end. Thank you for watching. Make sure, if you haven't already, to go check out GierokFarms.com. And also make sure to subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff, and check out our other videos. We will see you all next time.